According to The Atlantic, as of 2012, there are 111,000 arts organizations in the US. Of this 111,000, 40,000 have budgets over $25,000, while 70,000 have budgets under $25,000. The 40,000 groups with budgets over $25,000 have demonstrated dramatic growth. Revenue went from $14 billion in 1995 to $31 billion in 2012. Earned income accounted for 41% of arts revenue at $12.7 billion, up 37% since 1995, making the largest source of revenue for the arts individual giving. A whopping $13 billion per year, accounting for 42% of total arts revenue, up 67% since 1995.
The National Committee for Responsive Philanthropy, in a 2011 report, concluded that 55% of grants and gifts went to 2% of all arts organizations. This was the 2% of arts organizations with budgets over $5 million. In 2012, the stats get even scarier. 1% of arts organizations, the 1% with budgets over 10 million, received about 50% of all contributed funding for the arts for 2012.
However, a mere 4% of all arts revenue came from public sources in 2014. Based on statistics provided by the NCC, out of about 40,000 arts organizations with budgets over $25,000, 450 arts organizations have budgets over $10 million. There are 39,570 groups that even if they only service 1,000 people per year, they'd still be serving more people than larger organizations.
58% of Americans say they approve of local government awarding grants to artists and arts organizations. 57% of Americans approve of state government awarding grants to artists and arts organizations. 72% of Americans approve of government arts funding for art in parks and public places. 70% of Americans approve of government arts funding for returning military personnel transitioning to civilian life. 70% of Americans approve of state government arts funding to create programs for the elderly. 69% of Americans approve of government arts funding to beautify blighted areas and approve and promotes pro-social behavior with at-risk youth. 65% of Americans believe arts should be in hospitals and health institutions. 63% of Americans believe it can increase tourism in cities. When asked where the money from within the government would come from for the arts, 30% of Americans suggested the military. 1 in 5 suggested environment and energy. 1 in 10 suggested healthcare.